A new FTC ruling regarding review bombing that has come out. Now, our friends at the FTC, friends in quotes, um, are trying to do something to keep people from speaking their minds. So let me read this article from Dual Shockers. The FTC has issued a new set of rules covering reviews, and it may just have outlawed review bombing in the process. As per the FTC chair, the change aims to ban fake online reviews and testimonials, with 6 final rules the Commission hopes will make users able to make a more informed decision based on peer feedback. Most of the new FTC rules cover more traditional cases of review manipulation, but it is the first ruling that should raise alarm in gaming circles. Review bombing may fall under fake or false consumer reviews, potentially robbing players of an increasingly common method of leverage against studios and publishers. Review manipulation has been around for as long as review sites have existed. Sometimes the company owner drops enthusiastic praise for their enterprise, and other times it is saying how awful a competitor is. The 6 new FTC rules aim to distill reviews into authentic ones only. The first and most important rule for gaming covers fake. The first and most important ruling for gaming covers fake or false consumer reviews, consumer testimonials, and celebrity testimonials. It outlaws reviews generated by someone who does not exist, such as AI-generated fake reviews, but also covers people who did not have actual experience with the product or, crucially, misrepresent the experience. Calling upon a community to drop negative reviews to protest a new change, as was the case with Helldivers 2, may fall under this ruling. The second rule bans buying positive or negative reviews, wherein buying means offering expressly or implicitly both financial compensation or other incentives conditioned on the writing of consumer reviews. A few developers may need to reread this one to let it sink in, as the practice of offering new content or perks if the game reaches a certain number of reviews is not unheard of. Insider reviews and consumer testimonials are also on the hook, unless the person posting the review discloses their relationship with the product. This extends to the immediate family of employees. So long 5-star reviews by Jeff from accounting and his wife Linda. Or rather, so long 5-star reviews from Jeff from accounting and his wife Linda. Conglomerates that own both media and game development companies are also under fire. Company-controlled review websites cannot claim their reviews and opinions on a product are independent. How much disclosure is required is unclear. If it was not obvious, review suppression via intimidation is now prohibited. This includes legal and physical threats or accusations against someone. The gaming industry has been rocked by scandals where journalists, content creators, and are expressing negative opinion on certain titles, so this change is a welcome protection. Last but not least, misuse of fake social media indicators is now prohibited, including both buying and selling followers and engagement. Considering how endemic bots and followers are on certain platforms like Twitter/X, it is unclear how the FTC aims to curb this, but if enforced to the letter, this FTC ruling relegates review bombing to the past. During its life, the practice has been controversial. Some defend it as the only leverage the average player has against a stubborn game dev or publisher, while others say it is deceiving to prospective players looking for earnest reviews and prone to rage baiting. Whichever way it goes, it looks like user reviews will become more human, and that can only be a good thing. So I certainly have some thoughts on this. Why don't you start us off?
All right, so I think that this is something that is unfortunately just another example of overreach. Now, I do think that there are cases where there are definitely a whole lot of botted reviews, whether it's good or bad. I mean, I think Metacritic is a good example of this. But the thing is, as much as I feel like there are a lot of botted reviews, I still would not want that to necessarily go away. I really feel like having the freedom to express your voice is something that is truly important. And this is just this is a huge regulatory overstepping of bounds to restrict this, what you can say or not say. And, who's to say? I mean, I feel like if you leave a review that's critical, even if you go into detail, what if someone said, oh, you're just parroting someone else's opinion, or yeah, or um, you know, this is really just a troll review or something like that. Like if someone said, "Oh, I can argue that this review isn't legitimate," even if the review is legitimate, just because it's a disagreeing opinion.
Right.
Like, I definitely do not like that at all. And something I thought about is this is a very similar example to what YouTube did with removing the dislike button. Like, sure, were some videos unjustly downvoted? Yes. But at the same time, the downvotes served a reason. They served a purpose. And the best example I came up with this is the fact that with tutorial videos, a downvoted video shows you if that video is actually worth your time or not. And especially if you're doing something that's tech related, like say some sort of tutorial for setting something up on your computer or just doing something like that. Especially if the tutorial has you go to a website to download something that you do not know. Because comments in a video can be deleted, they could be botted. So, if someone says, "Oh, this was a good video, I liked it, this did a good job," sure, those could be real, those could be fake. Negative video comments can be deleted, but you cannot manipulate a dislike bar. So having that removed is a complete tragedy. And of course, we sort of know why YouTube did that, because of stuff. But that's But I guess going back to the gaming aspect, though, while I do believe that there are some things that might be falsely review bombed, I do believe that, as the article said, this is a huge piece of leverage we have over companies to keep them accountable. Because like with Helldivers, gamers review bombed that game on Steam, and as a result, Sony backtracked. Now, of course, they reinstated the requirements for PSN for all their other games, sadly. And unfortunately also, gamers from countries who can't access PSN still can't play those games or play Helldivers 2. So that unfortunately is the thing. But, we got Sony to at least budge some on that aspect. So I think having that ability to review bomb games and to get these publishers to stop being stubborn is a great thing. And we should definitely have that there. But, I think that Valve, I don't know how this works on consoles. And to my knowledge, at least with Nintendo, you don't have these features or aspects. But at least with Valve and Steam, for reviews on Steam, you can see how long someone's been playing a game.
Yep.
So you can see, if they only put in 20 minutes, if they put in a couple hours, if they put in 60 hours into a game. And you can also see how many hours they had when they left the review itself. So, they could have played some more and then came back and edited their review later on, which you can also see. And I think that's great. So you can know, hey, how much time does this person put into the game? And so, are they someone who's put some time into it so they know what to expect, and they've put out a good, a well-formulated opinion? Or is this something that, yeah, I played for 5 minutes, here's my review of the game? I appreciate that with Valve. And of course, so you can definitely do that. And you can also see if someone received a product for free, which definitely, you can know, hey, is this something that could be swayed because they didn't pay for it, or if it was gifted, or if this was given to them, or, did they actually put money into this, and, they have a bit of skin in the game, as it were. So I think Valve really handles it the best way. And I think that if other sites or forums like that, like say Metacritic, if you had to tie your account to whatever platform you're playing on, whether it be on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, etc., PC or whatnot, if they required that, you could get rid of a whole lot of negative reviews, and they could definitely be more authentic. But I definitely think banning review bombs outright is definitely ridiculous. I think that's going way too far. There's definitely no need to have that. And sure, with others, and I would actually argue, funny enough, that it's stuff outside of gaming that really has a greater that I'd say has more manipulation. Like
Hmm.
if you go to the Google Play Store, like this is the first thing that popped to my mind when I read this was the Google Play Store. With some of those apps, they are definitely uh, a whole lot of reviews are definitely bots that are
Yeah.
trying to bump up the ratings, especially if the apps just don't work all that well. Like you can see, just like skim through several reviews and say, yeah, this is definitely the way this is written is it's a bot. The grammar's not right, the sentence structure's not right. This is a bot, and it's just giving five stars. But yeah, and someone also I think I saw somewhere post something like, well, what would this also entail for like say sort of joke reviews, something like that. So like I'm certain that some viewers, if you've been on PC, you might have seen some sort of joke reviews on Steam reviews for games, which some of them are pretty basic, but some of them are actually they get a good chuckle out of me every now and then. So would something like that count as not a authentic review because it's just a little joke? I mean, sure, they might have enjoyed the game and they left something that was a little witty. Like for example, when Sega put out the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like this was probably the only time I ever left a joke review. But my review for that game was just Sega did what Nintendo didn't. And like just because, they, as the game stated, killed Sonic the Hedgehog. But you'll see some reviews like that in certain games, and even something just like something wacky happened in a game, and so they left a comment about that. Like I feel like those type of reviews should still exist, because even if they aren't technically a real review, you can still see that that someone put time into the game. You can still, and people also, I think this is another thing, is let people, this is also something that Valve does, which I also agree with, and I think other people should do, is allow the community to sort of curate reviews in a way, in the sense that you can click if a review was useful or not. Like that's something you can definitely do, and Valve allows you to sort of like reward reviews as well, which I mean, I don't know if that technically would count as being an incentive or not, but I mean, it's not like the developers were technically paying for those reviews. It was just like something that the community does. They thought it was useful, that was funny, they thought it was well detailed, so they can just give you those awards on Steam. So I really think that just allowing the community to sort of do its own thing rather than having some outside entity come in and try to control it and moderate it is a huge issue. I mean, I guess essentially just take a page out of Steam's book and just run with that, because just silencing everyone isn't a good thing, or at least trying to completely decimate the reviews, because not every negative review is going to be part of some review bomb. And I definitely think that there are some instances where review bombing is definitely needed. I mean, another example, I'm sorry, my last topic, but I think this was when Doom Eternal came out. It released with DRM, but I can't remember which one it released with, but it was something that was very... It definitely had kernel access, and a whole lot of PC gamers were not thrilled about that. And so they review bombed the game, and then at some point, Bethesda removed the DRM from it. And so that's definitely another example where review bombing a game led to the gamers getting a good outcome. So I definitely, again, think that this is a mistake, and even if you say, hey, think of the bad situations we avoided, think of what we did there, I think you're burning down an entire forest because of one rotten log. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I was going back and forth on some of this a little bit, but the more I listened to what you were saying, the more I realized this is just not a good thing. I think it's really bad. I mean, it's overreach, as you said, but really this is just quelling speech. That's what it's doing. And Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would be the ideal in general that people shouldn't be writing reviews if they haven't played a game. But at the same time, sometimes you need to let people know that there's something wrong with this game. You don't necessarily have to play the game in order to know that there's something wrong with the game. And the danger, of course, is that even if they manage to get a fairly good system, even if they're not trying to quell people's speech per se, what is to prevent people from saying this review is fake, or saying that I mean I don't know. I guess the other side is that you also have bots on both sides. It's not just in negatives. You'll get bots creating positive reviews, as you pointed out with like Google Play and that sort of thing. And even though they say, oh well, you have to disclose that you've been paid for this review or what have you, the reality is a lot of times developers, especially like the really big ones, like big publishers, they may not like directly compensate a person, but it ends up being more just an issue of access. Like if you get basically like they gave a free copy, but it's kind of like indirectly implied that if you leave a bad review after being given a copy, you won't get any free games in the future. Or, that, and even if they don't say it or even imply it, it still gives people an incentive to give a positive review when they wouldn't otherwise, because they got it for free and they don't want to lose their access to getting free games. They don't want to be blacklisted and all that. But as it stands with all of this, I think that it sets a dangerous precedent, because it starts with the things that are good to block, to prevent, and then it progresses further than that. And it will. This is how it always happens. You will end up in situations where people are where that envelope is going to keep getting pushed, and they're going to keep pushing it further out. And before you know it, they're just basically going to be censoring a whole lot of people. And if you happen to have certain people in power who do not want the negative reviews to be seen, or the positive reviews for that matter, they can just do whatever they want, and you can't do anything about it because of this ruling with the FTC. And I don't like the FTC as it is. I think that I just think this is dangerous. I think that I guess the other side of it is, you think about it like just in terms of free speech in general. People like it when speech is censored that they don't like. But the problem is, you start by censoring the speech that you don't like. What's to stop if the power switches over to people who disagree with you? What's to stop them from censoring you later on? And I think that there are some forms of censorship that like I might personally prefer. Like I think it would be great if like no games ever featured nudity or sex in them anymore, because it's a problem for me personally. Like I would prefer that stuff not be in games at all. But censoring that, as much as it would be beneficial to me, the line will keep getting pushed. And furthermore, there ends up being an issue of I guess kind of going beyond that, just speaking about things from a Christian perspective. The problem with, of course, nudity and sex in games, while I don't think those things should be in games, and I don't want to see them in games or movies or whatever, the problem is not an issue purely of what's there, but it's an issue of the heart. And if there's a problem with the heart, it doesn't matter how much you censor, it's not going to prevent, the sin. So, and obviously that's going off the topic more or less, but the TLDL of this is that I don't like that the FTC is doing this. I think that it is dangerous to let them do this kind of thing, and that it's only going to set a bad precedent that is going to get worse in the future. And there will come a point when people wonder, how did we get here? When like censorship is super bad and people wonder, how did we get here? And it's like, back at that, this is where it started. And I mean, obviously there's been other stuff before that, there's been all sorts of censorship on so many different levels, but I think that this review bombing, while I do think it would be better if people who actually played the games were the ones reviewing them, I also think it's good to be a canary in a coal mine sometimes. And you need to have someone who's willing to speak out against things and be willing to let people see those. Because, yes, some of them are going to be fake, but some of them are going to be giving legitimate information, even if they haven't necessarily played the game, even if they're technically just parroting someone else that they've heard. If the person that they've heard is telling the truth, and they're the only person who's telling the truth, you get a bunch of people buying a game that they wouldn't buy if they knew better. And, I think that that's realistically, the review bombing is better for protecting the consumer than anything else. I like the way that Steam does it. I like the fact that they make it possible that you can't review it if you haven't played the game. I think that's great. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of making it so that if people go onto a website where they want to review a game like Metacritic or whatever, that they should have to log in with the user ID that's specifically connected to that game. Because if they did that, then that way it'd be like, okay, you have this much time on record, people can see it. I think that if they did something like that, that would be good. But, I mean, required? I don't know. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. All right, any other thoughts on this or any other topic we covered?
No, sir.